And we're live. Talking UFC 324. First event of the year. First event on Paramount, at least for the US viewers. I believe there are a couple other countries and regions throughout the world that actually have access to Paramount Plus for the UFC content. Obviously, being up in Canada, there is no UFC deal here with Paramount. We got to get stuck with Sportsnet, which is still doing a pay-per-view deal. So we're stuck with that until at least, I believe, either the beginning or the ending of 2027. I always see 2027, so I'm not sure if that means like at the beginning of 2027, we're going to be able to get access to Paramount Plus as well. But I will tell you this. It's been really shitty going on Paramount and seeing Zuffa boxing there. Zuffa is obviously something that Zuffa boxing is something that they are trying to implement. They're obviously trying to, push that on the Paramount service. I believe that was kind of like a package deal. I believe Contender Series and The Ultimate Fighter is also going to be on Paramount Plus. So, it's great for everybody in the US that you guys only get the UFC, what is it, $8.99 a month with ads, $11.99 a month without ads. Damn good deal if you ask me. But as a Canadian or anybody else in other parts of the world, we got to wait until our current deals are up and then keep our fingers crossed that the UFC is going to actually give the rest of the world Paramount Plus type features with the UFC. But like I said, this weekend, UFC 324, headlined by an interim title fight between Justin Gaethje, former BMF champion, a guy that's fought for the belt multiple times, come up short in a lot of those spots as well, and now he gets this opportunity to take on the guy that the UFC is trying to push the most next, in my opinion, a guy in Paddy Pimblett who, he's very marketable. Obviously, he has that big following, from being from England, being from Liverpool specifically, being a guy that, really has grown himself a fan base, similar to Conor McGregor. Now, I don't know how long you guys have been fans, but for anybody that's been a fan for, seeing the Conor McGregor era come into effect, you saw that he brought all of Ireland with him, and that's why he became such a big star, because he was, so beloved amongst his fans. And that's what we got from Paddy Pimblett even back in the day. There was an instance where he actually got signed or was offered a contract to the UFC, but he turned it down because he said he wanted to continue to grow his popularity and continue to gain experience. Now, I believe he suffered at least one loss after that had occurred, so it kind of muddied the waters a little bit. But eventually, he got back on the horse, and he was able to get back into the UFC, or get to the UFC, I should say. And now he's, skyrocketing. He's obviously gotten a lot of love and push from the UFC, getting a lot of these opportunities. Good match or stylistic clashes for him as well. So he's not fighting uphill in a sense, right? Conor kind of got the same treatment, fighting Chad Mendes on super short notice. If you guys remember, Mendes was coming off a boat drinking Coronas. So there are some names, if you were just to skim Conor's resume, to be like, oh, these guys were good. But going up to Jose Aldo, a lot of those fights were handpicked, right? Like, I believe I could be wrong on this, I got to remember from the top of my head, but I believe his last win before fighting for a title was Dennis Seaver. I could be wrong on that. And then he ended up, was supposed to fight Jose Aldo, then got Chad Mendes on short notice, and then ended that year by fighting Jose Aldo. So, similar situation here with Paddy Pimblett, getting a lot of these guys that are much older in their careers now, guys that, kind of slowed down probably as well. Justin Gaethje might be the toughest test of his career thus far. So we'll see how that ends up going as these guys end up fighting each other. But, there's a lot of question marks about the UFC pushing Paddy Pimblett the way that they are. Now, I will say, I am using Streamlabs for the first time, or not at least Streamlabs, I should say. I'm using Stream Elements for the first time through OBS. So I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out. I'm hoping that the chat is actually working properly here. I want to make sure that comments are getting through. I'm still new to this whole Stream Elements thing. I'm still new to this whole OBS. If you guys remember when I used to stream, I used to utilize StreamYard, which was super easy to use. It was like a streaming for dummies type of thing, and you were just able to hit hit go live. Comments would pop up on the side. You're able to highlight them, and that's what I'm trying to figure out here with Streamlabs and Stream Elements. So we'll see how it goes. Now, these Tuesday streams are normally for talking about the fights that are coming up, but also any relevant news that's going on currently in the MMA world, right? I put Arman Tsarukyan's Publicity run in the title here for you guys. That's kind of the biggest thing that's been going on in the last week. Outside of all the other news that we covered, obviously the week prior, Tsarukyan's on a generational media run right now. This guy's going out there and hopping on all the trends, collabing with all these other big content creators, going on a ton of podcasts, talking out his ass. And I think a lot of that has to do with him trying to make a name for himself, trying to grow that popularity so that the UFC can no longer push him off to the side and be like, okay, you got to go win another fight, or you got to go and, become more popular. And that's what it seems like the UFC is trying to do here. I'm just double checking all my settings here to make sure everything's in place. I hate trying the new things here with the streaming. I almost feel like I want to go back to StreamYard because that's a lot easier to manage and deal with. Let's see if this works. Test. Just want to see if this works. All right, it's pulled up on there. Let's see if it pulls up on the screen here. Going once, going twice. Oh, and it works. Wonderful. All right. A little bit slower than I would like it for it to be, but I'm glad that it's actually working here. So I appreciate anybody that's stopping by. We got my guy here. Let's be surreal. Let's see. Listen to the podcast for a while. Glad I got to catch a live show. Well, this is the second live podcast that I'm doing in a long time. So I do appreciate you stopping by and saying what's up. Again, any questions and comments. Hopefully you checked out the full podcast that I dropped last night, breaking down the fights, giving you my picks and predictions. That's what this podcast is for, or at least this live stream is for, is to talk about all those picks and those predictions and why I'm leaning a certain way. So every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be right here chopping it up with you guys as best as possible and hoping that we can, create a little bit more of a community again. That's one thing I really missed with these live streams was being able to talk to you guys. So it seems like the quality is shitting out a little bit. Maybe my webcam or my OBS is demanding too much from it. Audio still sounds good, so I'm happy about that. But the video quality is something that I'm going to have to tune in on a little bit more in future podcasts. So I'm going to ride it out with OBS. I'm going to ride it out with Stream Elements, and hopefully we're able to, really hone in and master these technical aspects of the streaming show and see how that goes. All right, let's, before we get some comments and stuff in here, obviously my main thing is to answer as many comments and questions and concerns that you guys have about this 324 card or any other, relevant MMA news. I will just quickly show the card that we got here. So let's switch on over. Ooh, look at that. Look at that transition. See, I'm not able to do that in StreamYard. StreamYard, it looks a little bit more rinky-dink. It looks a little bit more clunky. Here, you're able to customize it a lot more, and that's what I'm really looking forward to continuing to work on here. So, I got the MMA Fight Archive up here. Shout out to anybody that's using the MMA Fight Archive. I got the full card here again. We got all the upcoming MMA events, or at least the major MMA events. ACA, One, UFC, Octagon is coming up next week, Fury FC as well, A1 Combat. So if you want to check it out, make sure you guys hop on the MMA Fight Archive. Again, direct links to all these fights. So like just for example here, we'll go into Adam Fugit. pull it up for you guys. And we got all of his relevant links posted up here, so you can just click it and just jump right into it. And then we got direct links to all their fights as well, or as many fights as I could possibly find online for them, so you can get right into the studying. So that's kind of the goal here with the MMA Fight Archive. Let's see. My guy, Let's Be Serial saying Hockett and Paddy parlay. I got to push back a little bit on that, my guy. By the way, I want to see if I can... Yeah, I can't do anything with the goddamn comments. The whole reason I tried using... I can pin the comment. That puts it at the top. At least that kind of notifies people that's the question that I'm talking about. But I wanted it to show up on the screen a little bit more. Regardless, at least you guys can see it on the video there with the live chat option on the side. Hockett and Paddy. So, I don't know if you watched the podcast that I already dropped. I think the fight that I'm looking forward to most on this entire card is the Hockett and Freeman fight. That is a fight that has a lot riding on it, in my opinion, because those guys are the next crop of heavyweights to try to break into title contention. Hockett is rightfully the favorite, but skill-wise, this is a tough one. Skill-wise, I think Denzel Freeman is the side. He has an Olympic wrestling background. He is a Taekwondo specialist as well. Very good striking. I think he's the better wrestler. I think he's the better striker here, though. I think that Josh Hockett is a better fighter, per se, and a guy that's willing to mix it up a little bit more. He's going to be a guy that's willing to just go into the fire. I think I just went offline for a second. I think I should be good. I don't know what happened there. We good? We good. We're good. Okay, we're good. Just double checking there. I'm not sure what was going on there. But yeah, in terms of this matchup, I think Hockett can kind of push the pace a little bit, and that's going to make Freeman uncomfortable. I think we'll see Hockett approach more with, trying to mix it up as much as possible. I don't see him getting a lot of control time. I see him maybe landing a takedown or two, but I think he's going to struggle a lot with holding Freeman down. But then from there, it's just the mat returns. It's going to be the constant moving forward. It's going to be... the activity, the basic striking approach, that's going to pass it for him here. But it's really about setting that pace and setting that pressure to try to break Denzel Freeman and try to run away with this down the stretch. I think Hockett has the better cardio, and he's a solid fighter. He has good tools. The issue is, again, Freeman is a very skilled fighter. He just needs to dial it in a little bit more. He needs to lock in a little more. He's so focused on the Olympic wrestling side of his career. He's so focused on trying to make it to the WWE, which I think he's kind of given up on that. But he is a very skilled fighter. My guy here saying, I think even if it goes to decision, Hockett shows to be more active. I agree with that. Freeman too stagnant from the last fight I seen. I would beg you, even if it's with, let me pull it up here. Even if it's with the MMA Fight Archive, you go into the archive and go watch his previous fights. The Isaiah Pinson fight is a perfect example of a fight where he wasn't pushing it enough. That I think that's why he ended up losing by split decision. And that's kind of the issue I have with him. But when he's really dialed in, he is very difficult to deal with. All of his Hugo Cunha fight was a perfect example of that. When he turned it on, he was able to get Cunha out of there. I would highly suggest going back and watching his previous fights, not just the one that he has here against Bulio, because that was a piss poor performance. That was a horrible performance. That was one where, I'm like, I was hyping Freeman up going into that matchup. I think I even played him that night as well. But that performance alone does not instill too much confidence. You got to go back. You got to watch some of his earlier fights. And I think from there, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. He's very skilled, has a ton of wrestling accolades, a good wrestling background as well. And I think that's going to help aid him in... beating the Marco Bulios of the world. If he locks in, He's a guy that can make it into the top 5, probably even into title contention. He's athletic, moves well on his feet, very fast, has some good power, but it's that wrestling that really sets him apart. If he wrestled against Bulio, I have no doubt he probably would have ground and pounded and finished him pretty easily. But I have no idea what the hell he was thinking, just mixing it up with him on the feet and just having that very tepid pace striking approach that gave us that very poor performance from Freeman. He got the win. Obviously, that's great. But to take it to that next level, you want to be a guy that people want to see fight. And that performance from Freeman last time is not one of those spots. I'm hoping that we're going to get Josh Hockett to get under his skin. I'm hoping that Josh Hockett will go out there and just, talk all the shit, try to spark that fire under Freeman. And I think if he does, I think we'll see Freeman have a lot of success if he takes it to heart and is really willing to actually, dish it out and have some solid success by letting go with his own offense. I think Hockett will bring the fight out of him. Again, with Hockett constantly moving forward, applying the pressure, throwing output, Freeman's going to have no choice but to try to throw in return. So I think that's going to be something to take into consideration. I don't know why it says go live here. Huh. I don't know what that's all about. Again, I'm still learning freaking OBS on the side here. One side says stop streaming. One side says go live. We're already live. We're already talking fights. Let me make sure that this is actually running. All right. I think we're good. All right. Other fun fights on the card. There are a ton of fights to really dig into and talk about here. Let's see, my guy, Let's Be Surreal, is saying cereal. Let's be cereal. That reminds me of Harlan Williams. I don't know if you know the comedian Harlan Williams. He always says, are you cereal? I love me some Harlan Williams. I don't know if that's where you got it from, but I love the name there. I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I'll be on it before the fights for sure. Podcast dropped last night. Again, doing a complete overview of the restructuring of the channel. So restructured the main podcast, the MMA Lock-Cast, got all new graphics, which means it took me a while to really set up the template in terms of how I wanted it to look, but it took me a long time to produce that, shoot it, produce it, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's why it took me a while to drop that last night, but it is out. So make sure you guys consume that. Tuesdays is a live stream. Wednesdays is going to be the quick pick. So I'll just have a 8 to 10 minute video getting right down to each pick. Obviously leaving out a lot of details. That's what the MMA Lock-Cast is for. Thursday, best bets video. Going to give you a ton of good content in that video. Friday weigh-in recap, Saturday fight day live chat, Saturday more than likely going live for the fights as well for YouTube members only. So if you want to hop in on that, you're more than welcome to do so by hitting that join below the video, and then we're back, rinse and repeat on Monday for UFC 325. All right, let's see what my guy's saying here. Shout out to my guy dropping all these reactions too. These are all new things that YouTube's done since I've been streaming last. So very interesting to see some of these things that people are able to do. Okay. I do kind of like Michael Johnson as dog. That's not a bad spot. That's why he's roughly around that that plus 125, plus 130 range. Obviously in his bag right now, right? 3-fight winning streak, had a solid knockout victory over Ottman Azaitar, pulled off a big upset against Daniel Zellhuber. He's looking good. My issue is 40 years old. We know his chin has always been a little bit of an issue. And Alexander Hernandez is a nasty knockout puncher, as we've been seeing in recent fights, right? slept Diego Ferreira, slept Chase Hooper before that. And if he lands that big bomb on Johnson, that's where things could really start to go south for Mr. Menace, if that's what we want to call him. The advantage, though, in terms of backing Johnson here is that he's the dog, right? Better minute winner, probably a little bit faster with his combinations. If he can avoid that big bomb, he will definitely do very well in this matchup, and he could absolutely pull off the upset. Hernandez, not a great minute winner, right? It's all about that power. It's all about wrestling as well. That's how he was able to win a decision against Kurt Hollabaugh. I don't see him holding Michael Johnson down for long periods of time, so it's going to come down to Hernandez landing that bomb or not, and if he doesn't, he's kind of shit out of luck, right? So I don't mind the Michael Johnson dog pick at all. That's a sharp spot right there, my friend. LOL, it's a South Park reference. You know what? I had Paramount Plus for a while, and I was doing a rewatch of South Park because there's so many seasons and episodes I missed. Obviously, I watched the most recent season with the whole Trump story arc and all that. But I was doing like a rewatch from like season 5 onwards, and then I canceled Paramount. So I'm going to have to eventually get back on that so I can get back on South Park. You know, there's some real gold mines for South Park in terms of the references. You know, I love that documentary that they released where they show how they, you know, shoot one episode in like a week's time, a week before they're actually supposed to air it. Fucking genius shit from South Park there. So, yeah, I would love to hop back on South Park as well. There is also, I do want to quickly give attention to LFA 225, which goes down in Brazil this weekend. They had their first event last weekend. Not a bad card. There were a lot of finishes, fun fights. This weekend, there's, I think, 14 or 15 fights. Let me pull it up here real quick so we can get eyes on it, and then I'll get back into the live chat here. But we have LFA here, headlined by Marcos Degli going up against Luis Aguiar. Daniel Rougeau, very nasty striker. Looking forward to that. Lionel Abouge, nasty finisher. Marcio Cabral is very fun. Miguel Porto is very fun. I think Icaro Brito was actually scheduled to fight on the Contender series, so he's a guy that will obviously you need to have some eyes on. Frank Silva is another guy. I think he was supposed to fight Antoine Ho before Silva pulled out. He had some visa issues, if I'm not mistaken. Who else? Vladimir Calvo, very strong grappler, wrestler. Gustavo Guillermo Guilherme, very explosive and athletic, very fun fighter too. Yeah, some other fun fights on the card. I'm hoping they show the full card. You know, LFA is known for only showing like some of their prelims, but they got, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 fights. I'm hoping they show every single one of them, but that card goes down on Friday. So the day before UFC 324, LFA goes down, and I'll be dropping the Legacy Warriors podcast for LFA 225 probably on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. That'll be dropped on the YouTube channel as a video. All right, let's get back to the comment section here. Will Arnold Allen shock the world? Good question. I think there's a reason we're starting to see the Allen line start to trickle down a bit. I think that, earlier in the week he was closer to plus 250, I think it was. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here for you guys. Here we go. Arnold Allen, yeah, so that line's starting to come down, right? Do they have... No, they don't have Bet Online on here. I should be using fightodds.io. Those guys have their shit together a little bit better. But, wow, actually, it looks like when the line originally dropped back in November, so the line trickled all the way up to... Sorry, he opened up at plus 150, plus 152 on FanDuel, got all the way up to about plus 230, and it seems like that line is slowly starting to trickle down. Let's see, what are the better ones? I guess that's not trickling down. I swear I saw him at plus 250. I think that was Bet Online. But the one thing we really have to take into consideration for that matchup on the Gene Silva side of things, he got hurt pretty badly by Diego Lopez. Now, I know he didn't get put out clean, so that's one kind of positive that you can give for Gene Silva, but he didn't get put out cleanly against Diego Lopez. He did get hurt very badly. Obviously, we saw that spinning back elbow open up a nasty cut on Silva's head. So obviously, he got hit with pretty, big emphasis, a pretty much big significance there. But he's coming back like 3 months later. Is that too quick of a turnaround? Arnold Allen is not a huge power puncher. He throws with a lot of strength and a lot of power, a lot of explosivity, but you don't see him often translate that to knockouts. The knockout win he has over Dan Hooker. Hooker was depleting himself to get down to 145 pounds. Looked like he was on death's door when he took the cage, or even when he took the scale as well. And Allen jumped on him and got him out of there quickly. And then the Calvin Kattar one, that wasn't a true knockout. That was TKO injury, where Kattar actually injured himself jumping for that flying knee. So does Allen have the power to knock out Gene Silva? Probably. Silva's very reckless. He loves to exchange in the pocket. He loves to move forward, and he loves to throw with his power. Allen will probably oblige. The only issue is that Allen's just not all that active. I've always had issues with his activity and his output, and I think that's kind of what's been giving me problems in the past in terms of trusting him. I think the only time I've really bet him was when he went up against Sadiq Youssef, another guy that's very low volume and very tentative at times. So the spot that I'm liking here, I think the odds are just too wide for Gene Silva. I think Silva wins. But the spot that I like is the under 2.5, which is roughly around plus 120. With the way Gene Silva fights, he's going to instigate Arnold Allen to throw in return, and one of these guys is going to eat a big shot, and somebody's going to go down. I expect it to be Arnold Allen that ends up going down, but there is a world where Allen counters him. Gene Silva might be still a little bit compromised from that knockout loss to Diego Lopez, and he ends up going out. So given the way that Gene Silva fights, and you're getting plus money on a violent spot, I know Allen is more of a decision machine, but you got to really look at the stylistic clash here, and Gene Silva is going to bring the fight out of Allen. So the pick is still Silva, but the under 2.5 I think is the way to go, and I think no matter who ends up winning, we should end up being able to cash that ticket there. All right. What else is my guy saying here? Feels like people forgot how dangerous and durable he is. He is kind of durable, but I really feel like Silva has the tenacity, the ferocity, that dog on a bone mentality, that if he hurts Allen even a little bit, he's going to jump on him, try to get him out of there, and that either leads to him actually getting the finish or Allen countering him, taking advantage of that reckless abandon, and then leading to the finish as well. So under 2.5 is probably where I would take my gaze for that matchup. Excuse me. Let me wet the whistle real quick. Umar inside the distance feels live. Yeah, I do like that. The one that I was kind of hoping to lean in on more was the Umar round 3, but it seems like people have already bet that to shit. That's down to about plus 170 now. But I do like Umar here. Well, obviously, minus 1,600. It's almost a foregone conclusion that that Umar should win. But we know, he's much better gas tank than Davison Figueiredo. With the pace and pressure that Umar is going to fight with, it feels like he should get the finish as well. So I don't mind that spot either. Man, I wish I could highlight these comments a little bit more, but it is what it is. I feel like there's almost no need for this chat box on the side of my video if I can't really, you guys see the chat box on the side if you're watching on YouTube anyway, right? I don't know. We'll see how I feel with that moving forward. Kind of want to take a live shot on energy when Perez gas tank starts to go around 1.5 rounds. I have a little bit of an issue with that. I don't think he has a gas tank issue. I think he has pretty good cardio. I know he got caught by Asu Almabayev in the opening seconds of round 3. But historically, he's had a good gas tank. If I'm not mistaken, he even won that final round against Mohamed Mokhaev. I think, let's check the MMA Fight Archive to get that information. I'm going to repeatedly plug the MMA Fight Archive just so you guys know just how easy it is to use. I love it. So the Mokaev fight, got the scorecards here. No, Mokaev did win the last round. He won the second round. That's what it was. But let's see the other fights where we have a little bit more scorecards. Perez won the first round against Nicolau and then knocked him out in the second. Perez won the first round against Tyra and then got injured in the second. Won the second round against Almabayev and then got finished in the third. So maybe there is a little bit of credence to that, but I don't think he has a gas tank issue. Johnson is not a perennial finisher either. Perez also pretty decent durability. It's usually his submission defense that kind of causes him issues, right? You got 6 of his, 6 of his 10 losses coming by submission, 2 of his 10 losses coming by knockout. But when was the last time he got knocked out besides Tyra? So we can already, with the injury being one of them, we can already say that he's only lost by knockout once. But when was that other one? Oh, Joseph Benavidez. Man, that was back 8 years ago. Maybe 7 years ago, if you want to say that. 7.5 years ago. I don't remember it off the top of my head in terms of how he got ground and pounded there, but I remember it might have been a club and sub if I'm not mistaken. But not club and sub, but like a club and drum. Like he hurt Perez and then followed him to the ground and got a TKO there. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I remember going into that matchup what people were thinking because Perez was streaking, right? Perez was, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, got his Contender Series shot, finished Carlos John de Thomas, had a good win over Eric Shelton, had a big win over Jose Torres. I feel like he was a slight favorite in that matchup. And then he ran to Benavidez. I remember so many people were on Perez going into the Benavidez fight because they thought he had a lot of potential and a lot of hype. And he does. He does have a lot of potential. But he obviously started to fall off in that stretch here where he went to 1-5. But look at those losses that he had, right? He got that super short notice. I think it was a short notice fight against Davison Figueiredo for the title. I might be confusing that with Figueiredo jumping in on short notice. The following event, UFC 254, he headlined against Perez, and then he headlined UFC 255 and 256. He jumped back to headline against Brandon Moreno, and that's when that whole rivalry started. But Pantoja, Mokaev, Figueiredo, Tyra, Almabayev, beating Tyra up into that injury as well. So that's something to take into consideration. But I think that Perez is very underrated now. He was overrated in the past, in my opinion, but now I think he's a little bit underrated. So to get that plus money on him, I feel like is a good shot. Good thinking didn't concern the KO versus sub losses. Yeah, that's looking deeper into it. Again, Johnson knocked out Joshua Van, but we know Van is a little bit more willing to exchange in the pocket and be a little bit more reckless. And I think that's why he ended up getting caught by Charles Johnson. Perez does crash the pocket very recklessly at times, but he does a good job in terms of getting off on his big punches, pivoting off and then resetting and then getting back into action from there. So maybe Johnson catches him on an entry, catches him with a counter and puts him down that way. But yeah, I don't know. I'd kind of be surprised if Johnson gets the finish here. With the, a lot of people are kind of leaning on Johnson finishing Kavanaugh, but I think a lot of people are leaning on the fact that Kavanaugh slowed down. I don't think Perez will slow down. I think Perez is going to be the one that's on the gas. I don't think he's going to try to desperation wrestle the way that Kavanaugh did in the first or the second round of their fight, which I think caused Kavanaugh to slow down. Perez is experienced. Perez has so much good strength of schedule as well. I really think that this is a fight based on, or the odds are based on momentum, streaks. What have you done for me lately? The whole recency bias thing. Because I think if both guys were coming off of, 3 straight wins or something like that, I think a lot of people would be leaning on Perez here because the archetype of fighter that has been successful against Charles Johnson is exactly what Alex Perez embodies. Good striker, good pressure, good wrestler. I know Johnson has improved his defensive grappling and he's a lot more active in terms of working out of these bad spots. But I think Perez could mix it up enough to really make things interesting here. Shout out to my guy, Robert Saladino. Long time no see, my friend. I'm really happy to see you in the chat here. Appreciate you stopping by and dropping a comment. Let's finish up with my guy. Let's be serial here. First, saying, will we see the Sugar Show return? I question his mentality with how he said he's considering retiring. But when he is focused, he can put on a masterclass like Cheeto. That's the issue that I have with playing the chalk on Sugar here. You know, Sugar, when he's in his zone, like you said, when he's focused and he's really in that groove, he puts on masterclass performances like he did against Cheeto, setting up that nasty knockout like he did against Eddie Wineland. Even some of the success he had against Petr Yan, right? That win is very controversial still, but to even get close enough that two judges would actually score that fight in his favor, you can't overlook how good that guy actually is. He just, you know, it's very unfortunate that he's gone back-to-back fights against Merab Dvalishvili, who is just a horrible stylistic matchup for him. The issue I have with playing the chalk, though, is that mentality. You hit the nail on the head right there, my friend. The retirement talks, you know, we don't know what these guys are actually going through until they step foot inside the cage. I think he wins. I think this is a good stylistic matchup for him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Song look to wrestle a little bit, but I don't think he'll be all that successful with it. I think, you know, Merab is just a different animal when it comes to meshing the pace and activity and the takedowns and the mat returns. Song Yadong is not going to be able to do that. He might be able to do it for a round, but that will clearly tax his gas tank and he's going to slow down, and that will lead to Sean being able to pick him apart a little bit more. So, yeah, I think Sean wins, but I wouldn't play him at this type of chalk because we don't know where he is mentally. We've seen it so many times with fighters before who have been streaking, then they take a loss, and then it's just a downhill trend from there. So yeah, I think he wins, but I wouldn't play him at this type of chalk. Robert's saying, why do you think Paddy has been given easy competition? The UFC knows something. Robert, LOL, UFC doesn't like Arman, that's why. Well, you know, if you were around during Conor's rise in the UFC, they did the same thing. They kind of bent to his will. They're like, this guy has a large following. This guy has a lot of publicity around him. He is a guy that clearly draws attention. So let's give him the matchups that he wants. Let's not force him to fight. You know, let's give him this to get him to the spot where he is now. You know, let's give him these aging veterans who are durability. It's not that great. You know, they gave him, I'd say the toughest test they gave him earlier on in his UFC career was Jared Gordon. And that was a very close fight, right? That should have been a Jared Gordon win, if we're being honest. But he gets the win, and then they start feeding him other fighters that he's, you know, he matches up against very well. He's very lucky that he's in the UFC lightweight division in this era. And what I mean by this era is that the champions of the past still have a big enough name that they can warrant fighting a guy like Paddy because they can give Paddy that push. You know, Michael Chandler, everybody loves themselves on Michael Chandler, but Chandler's not been successful in the UFC. You know, let's go over to Michael Chandler here. So we'll go over to Paddy Pimblett. Like, look at Chandler's UFC record. 2-5. He's only won 2 fights in the UFC, right? My guy Robert here is saying Conor fought Max and Dustin coming up. True, but look at those guys as well. Let me look at them at the time of fighting them. Let me pull up Conor's thing here. I think it was roughly around, like, before the Seaver fight, that's where his explosion really started to come into play, right? So he comes over from Cage Warriors. He fights Marcus Brimage. Decent matchup. Max Holloway, only, you know, a few fights into his UFC career at the time. He was still very young. I believe Conor injured himself, or was it somebody injured himself that night? I think it was Conor, actually. I think that's why he was out for as much as he was. But at the time, you know, Max Holloway is not who he is now. Then he beats Diego Brandao, who I believe came in on short notice, coming into Conor's backyard. Then the Dustin Poirier fight clips him in a minute and a half, right? We really didn't get to see that fight play out too much. okay, let's say that was a good fight, or at least a good stylistic matchup, somebody that was good enough for Conor to be tested against. Then he gets Dennis fucking Seaver in Boston. I was live for that event in Boston back in January of 2015, over fucking 11 years ago. That's crazy. Almost 11 years to the date, January 18th. Then he gets Chad Mendes on like a week's notice. If you guys remember, he was supposed to fight Jose Aldo that night. Aldo pulls out. Mendes comes in off the boat, fresh off some Coronas, and Conor's able to, nullify the grappling early, gas Mendes out, and eventually get him out of there with big strikes near the ending of the second. And then he torches Jose Aldo in 13 seconds when, that's a fight I wish we got to see play out a little bit more. I was live for that one as well down in Vegas, but 13 seconds, it's all it took. And then the Nate Diaz fight. I think the Nate Diaz fight was the one that a lot of people realized that maybe he's not as good as people are making him out to be. All the stars aligned for him, right? I know the Nate Diaz fight was on short notice too, so that was kind of a little bit of an issue for Conor. I wish we got to see him fight Dos Anjos that night like he was supposed to. But that's where it really started to derail a little bit for Conor there, right? Since the Nate Diaz loss, 1-2, he's 3-3. He's only fought fucking six times since 2016. Crazy. Let's see. Paddy also sets up so many other matches for the UFC with the rivalry he has with almost everyone in the division. That's right. Him, Ilya Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan, obviously those guys obviously have a lot of heat going. But the issue is getting him that title first. Once they're able to get a gold belt around his waist, whether it's an interim title or not, it's off to the races. I'm sure that we'll see a little bit more of a jumping off point there for Paddy and his popularity. Remember when Barstool started backing them? They even backed Molly McCann. Like, hey, these two are a package deal, right? And then Molly, I think she ended up losing pretty much all of her fights after that. Feels like it's just a matter of time before UFC grabs Stevenson. I'm guessing you're talking about Gable Stevenson. There is no N in Stevenson, FYI. Will they give him the push like Pereira, or will they start with feeding cups kick like Gauthier? With Pereira, you got a guy that was already I guess Stevenson is already a experienced wrestler, but the difference with Pereira and Stevenson was that Pereira's, taken punches to the face before, whereas Stevenson hasn't really. I think they'll give Stevenson like the Joe, not the Joe Pyfer, the Bo Nickel run, right? And luckily for him, heavyweight's not all that deep. He will only have to fight maybe 3 or 4 guys, and if he runs through them, he's in the top 5, right? So they'll probably give him the slow build as much as they can. I think that's why we're seeing him stay very active on the regional scene to try to just gain as much experience as possible. He's fought for, I think, 3 different promotions now on Fight Pass. So I think that there is some deal in terms of Fight Pass and Stevenson, or at least the promotions on Fight Pass. Maybe the UFC is paying those promotions to put Stevenson on their card. So he's trying to accrue that experience ASAP. And then hopefully get him into the UFC by the White House card, which I think is at the beginning of June or mid-June or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a couple more fights. You need to see him face a little bit of adversity first, right? We don't want another Bo Nickel situation where Nickel gets exposed by Renier de Ridder in a sense. So yeah, I think they'll give him the slow build more so like Bo Nickel as much as they can at heavyweight. The more fights he can get before coming to the UFC, the better. But yeah, I especially with Stevenson going on Rogan's podcast, you gotta know that the UFC's in his ear. And from what I've heard, the UFC's or at least Mick Maynard has been talking to Stevenson. There is discussion. It's all about gaining enough experience before he starts fighting these guys that are actually going to be able to punch him in the face before he takes them down. Robert saying, fair, my guy, I love the work. Excuse me. You have no idea how much it warms my heart to see a familiar name and face in the chat, after so long of not live streaming and stuff. So I'm hoping that we can get a lot of the people that we used to have in the live streams back in the chat and chop it up. Again, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays of UFC Fight Days, Fight Day live chat, 1 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. Very much looking forward to that. And then doing watch parties for YouTube members only. So hopefully some of you guys can hop in on that and we can have some drinks and enjoy some fights. All right, we got about 10 to 12 more minutes here that I'm going to spend with you guys before I hop off. So I'm taking any and all questions. Alex versus Joan would be insane. Not sure all the hate for that fight. I think now with Aspinall not having as much love as he had before the Cyril Gane fight, I think there's more of a willingness for people to watch Jones fight Alex. I'm not sure how much hate there is out there about the Alex and Jones fight. I feel like that's the one that makes the most sense. I think everybody was just beating the drum that it should be Tom Aspinall against Jon Jones. But fuck it. Jon Jones is not in a stage of his career where he wants to defend titles, or I think that's why he vacated the title to begin with. He just wants fun, maybe not even fun fights that would mean more for his legacy. Fighting a guy like Alex Pereira, who's a 2-division champion, very entertaining, probably the most popular fighter on the UFC roster, especially amongst the guys that can't even speak English, right? And then to have him fight a guy like Jon Jones would be amazing. Like, obviously, Jones should win that fight, right? Jones should wreck Alex, especially with how big he is. His wrestling, his grappling, he should be able to take Alex down pretty quickly and get this fight done with. But in terms of hype and anticipation and excitement, I don't think there's a bigger fight than Jones and Alex that you can put together right now. Maybe Ilya Topuria against Islam Makhachev, but that might be a little bit of a foregone conclusion now with Makhachev going up to 170 and Ilya obviously being a little bit of inactive now. But I really feel like the biggest fight that can be put together is Jones versus Alex. It's a good point there. Let's be serious saying, can't wait to get an early Taffa fade. There is nothing I love more than fading the Taffa brothers. Junior more than Justin. I think I'm getting that right. Yeah, Junior is the shittier one in my opinion. Both of them not that great, let's be honest. Let's see what that card looks, or who he's facing. I can't remember off the top of my head who Junior Taffa against Billy Alicana. Easily taken Alicana in that fight. Alicana should style on Taffa. I haven't seen what the odds are for that fight yet, but I would probably say with solid confidence that Alicana should be the favorite. Taffa is horrible. I should have got that win when I had Parker Porter against him. Had it not been for a couple of those fence grabs by Junior Taffa that kept him standing. I was so confident in Tuco Toko submitting Junior Taffa. And even with Toko slowing down the amount that he did, still able to get the win there. Very happy about that. Is Justin? Justin's not on the card. I felt like he was, and then he got injured or something like that. How is the Mexico card not featuring better Mexicans? LOL, biggest name is Moreno. Let's see that Mexico card. I forgot who it was, but somebody had mentioned that the UFC is doing a better, or focusing more on putting more international names on these cards, so it seems more like a UFC event and not just like a local event. I think that's what they're doing with the London card as well. Because like even when they come to Canada, right, it's all the Canadians, the usual suspects that are on the card, but we want more of a card that you would see in the US. Just give me all the names. You don't need to worry about selling tickets based on where a fighter is from. If you bring the UFC to town, more likely you're going to be able to sell out tickets as long as you have a good enough headliner, right? Or even a good fan favorite on the card. You don't need these Mexican fighters in Mexico or Canadian fighters in Canada. Let's see. Moreno against Almabayev. Vera, Latin American, so I can understand why they got him on there. Edgar Chairez, Mexican. Dave Martinez, Mexican as well. Imanol Rodriguez, Mexican. Kevin Borjas, I think Peruvian. Jose Medina, I think... I don't know what country is Medina from. I know it's not Mexico. It starts with a C. No, I was so off. It starts with a B. It's Bolivia. I was off there. Gandra, Brazilian. Schultz and Pinas is from Aruba, so kind of the same-ish area. I think I guess that's more the Caribbean than Latin America. Eileen Perez, Argentinian. Santiago Luna, Mexican. Christian Quinones, Mexican. I'm guessing Chris Moutinho I think he has Portuguese descent. Kiriskate against Montenegro. Montenegro is Argentine. Daniel Zellhuber, Mexican. Javier Reyes, I believe Mexican. Colombia. So there's a lot of Mexicans. Oh, okay. You said better Mexicans. Got it. You meant better Mexicans. Yeah, I understand. But Moreno and Mexico, I'm sure they're happy enough with that. They got a bunch of Aussies for the 325 card. That is true. I don't know where I saw it, where they said they're not going to focus so much on putting, guys fighting where they're from, essentially. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of, I don't know, maybe the tweet or whatever I saw it from was just talking out the ass. Decent card, though. I'm still not a fan of the Volkanovski-Lopez rematch. I forgot who else is out there. Movsar Evloev is still out there. Has a win over Diego Lopez. I know he hasn't been all that active, but I'd easily give him. Hooker versus Saint-Denis should be a fun fight. Fiziev versus Huffy is a very fun fight, or Rufi, I should say. Very interested to see what the odds are there. I would love Fiziev there. I think he runs through Rufi, if I'm being honest. Tuivasa Teixeira, fun slop fest there. Yeah. David Nettles. Shout out to my guy, David Nettles. Very happy to see you in the chat, my friend. Been a long time. Hope to see you around here more often again. As my guy, Robert Saladino, is saying here, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Saturdays, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't get the time zones mixed up. But Tuesdays, 8 to 9 Eastern. Saturdays, 1 to 2 Eastern. At least two events per month. I'll be doing a watch party as well on the channel. I think I'll probably do like one of those things where I do a public stream, but a members-only chat. I don't want it to get overrun with like all these, trolls and bullshit and all that. I just want to be able to have some drinks, have some fun, and know that the guys that are in the chat are chill dudes, fun guys that want to talk fights, react to fights, and all that stuff. So I'll probably do that. So if you haven't already hit up the YouTube membership, again, $2 a month keeps the chat nice and clean, and we will build a very fun and solid community as we've had in the past. And yes, David Nettles, profitable 2026. Let's try to cash some more tickets this year. Appreciate you guys. Let's be serious, saying Grasso in Seattle, Lopez in Australia, Chiwiwi on some fight night in the Apex, I think. Yeah. Well, Grasso's fighting... Grasso's got an interesting fight, right? She's going up against Macy Barber. That's a fun fight. And she's highly ranked, right? So that's another aspect to take into consideration. Who is it? Lopez in Australia? Oh, yeah, you mean Diego Lopez. Yeah, well, he's fighting against Volkanovski, who's from the area too, right? And then Rosas Jr., he's going up against Rob Font. Yeah, that's on 326. That's not at the Apex. Where's 326? I want to say Miami. No, that's Vegas. Pumped for her earlier start being on the East Coast. Yes, good point there. Let's be serious. They are moving the start time back to 9 p.m. Eastern time for main card. So that means even prelims will start earlier than that. So that's, I think for this weekend's card, it's 4 p.m. Eastern for the early prelims. Very happy about that, especially if I'm going to be live streaming, right? I don't want to be up until fucking 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m., halfway falling asleep, trying to talk to you guys. So, yeah, looking forward to that. I will be live streaming the fights this weekend. David Norrell's asking, when handicapping, how much do you figure in, or I'm guessing factor in, how far a fighter has to travel for a fight as in Abu Dhabi? It's obviously something to consider, but if they're fighting at this level, you have to assume that they're doing everything possible to try to be as ready and as prepared to compete in a different place. I know there's something that a lot of people used to talk about back in the day. I don't think it's getting as much chatter this time around, or at least in recent years. A lot of guys, when they train for their fights, especially if it's happening in a different place, they're training at the time that they're expecting to be fighting. So I'm assuming if you're a professional, you got to be doing that. And then obviously jet lag and all that stuff, you got to get in early enough. So yeah, you take it into consideration a bit. You take it into consideration even more if they're coming in on short notice. I think that's the aspect where you really have to lean in and take it into more consideration. But that is a good point that not a lot of people think about. I wouldn't say it's the be-all, end-all of my decision-making in handicapping a fight, but it's definitely a consideration. Saladino saying recently moved to Utah from New York, 7 p.m. start time, baby. Nice. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the country as well, so I'm like Central Time. So it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern start time for main cards for me. Very happy about that. Yeah, should be fun. That's the best part about, West Coast is the start times for, basketball games, hockey games, football games, MMA. Everything starts so much earlier. I remember I went to Anaheim for UFC 121, I think it was. Brock Lesnar against Cain Velasquez. That was my first time going to Cali to begin with. And when we finished the fights, there was still so much to do at night, right? The main card started at 7 o'clock. I think it finished maybe 9:30. There was still so much to do at the night where I'm so accustomed to being an East Coaster that as soon as the fights are done, it's like, all right, where's my bed? Let me start to dial down a little bit. So yeah, if you're a West Coaster, you're definitely living the good life when it comes to sports. Let's Be Serious saying feels like the Barber versus Blanchfield rematch has to happen. Yeah. Honestly, off the top of my head, I completely forgot that they fought. But Barber's streaking right now too, right? So based on their trajectory, it wouldn't be surprising to me to see them actually end up rematching. OMG Rods saying, hey brother, first time catching your lives. This is my second ever live in the new year, or at least my second live in the last 3 years. So you're not missing much. I'm glad that you're able to jump in for this live. Even on the tail end here, I will be winding this bad boy down right now. But again, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. And then if you hop on the YouTube membership page, I will be doing watch parties with you guys for at least 2. I'm going to try to do as many UFC events as I can, but at least 2 UFC events per month. And, if I'm not doing anything and there's an off week and there's a good card on, maybe PFL or Octagon or LFA or something like that, maybe I'll go live with you guys as well. Love your breakdowns. You're one of my favorite MMA. I appreciate the love, my guy. It means so much to me. And that's why I'm so happy to do these lives to connect with you guys once again. Let's Be Serious saying facts, those 1 a.m. endings are killer when you also work that day. Oof. I feel for you, my man. I definitely feel for you. 1:30 a.m. was killing the next day with young kids waking up at 6. That's one part of my near future that I'm kind of dreading is, the responsibility of kids dealing with, something where you're working on the weekends or watching these fights and all that stuff. So I definitely feel for you guys. You have to be a true fan to be able to kick it through that type of fatigue and still be wide awake enough for your kids. But shout out to you, my guy. Barber didn't make the walk. And, yes, I totally forgot. That's why I remember that they didn't fight. You're right. I totally forgot to do that. Or totally forgot that even happened. I think if Barber keeps winning and she becomes undeniable, I think we'll eventually see them fight each other. Yeah, you're right. I totally forgot that happened. Man, that was wild. All right, I'm going to take these last few comments here and then I'm going to sign off. I do appreciate you guys. I know it's really picking up near the ending of the live stream here, but I really, really appreciate you guys coming through again. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll be right here so we can kick it, talk whatever event is coming up or any relevant news or anything that you guys want to talk about. That's what this live chat is for. So I appreciate you guys. Let's see. It was supposed to be when Aspinall and Gon fight, do you see the fight going the same way that the first fight went, as Gon seemed to be on a good start? And do you see Tom being able to change enough to make a difference? There wasn't enough of the fight that really went through to see how that would have gone. I think we'll obviously see the odds favor Gane going into this matchup. It's hard to say whether it will go the same way. I think we'll see Aspinall realize, okay, there were some mistakes that I made. There were some things that I could probably clean up, but will it be enough to get him over the hump? I don't think I played Aspinall going into that fight. I know I predicted him to win, but my thoughts on that fight have definitely changed a little bit. And Gane's footwork, his takedown defense improvements and all that will definitely help him moving forward. Oh my OMG Rod saying, off topic, but do you collect UFC cards? I do not. I never got into that collection stuff. I know it can be lucrative for a lot of people. Shout out to you if you're making some coin off that or even just enjoy doing it, period. I just haven't really had the time to focus in on that. From, breaking down the fights, studying up on all the fights, breaking down all the cards that I do, UFC, PFL, Contender Series, Road to UFC, LFA, and Cage Warriors, and then also taking care of the MMA Fight Archive. I don't have much free time. I do this thing full time, but there is not a whole lot of free time with the amount of work that I really put into this stuff. David, it's no more Mr. Nice Aspinall. You think Aspinall was nice going into that fight? Nah, man, it's worth so much fun. Love them in MMA for sure. I'm sure there's nothing like having kids. I'm sure I'll be able to let you know how that feels in the next few years. All right. Again, it's amazing to finally be live streaming again. Very happy that some of you guys have come out and stayed very active in these chats. I know a lot of these other live streams can be very overwhelming with so many people commenting and stuff. And obviously, I look forward to getting more and more viewers and live viewers and all that stuff, more people hopping in here. But I really appreciate you guys. I hope to see you guys around more often in the chats, in the comment section, whatever it is. But every Tuesday evening, you know where I'll be, right here, 8 p.m. Eastern. Fridays, Fight Day Live Chat, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll be right here. And then watching the fights as well with whoever wants to hop on to the YouTube members as well for $2 a month. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back tomorrow for the quick picks version of the UFC 324 breakdowns. And then obviously other content as well for the UFC card. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. And I'll see you guys again in the comment section and probably Saturday for the Fight Day Live Chat. Peace.